Hi, welcome to section 4. Here we're going to talk about what are you going to wear. Obviously, other than what you wear as your beautiful gown for your wedding, and of course the tux for the groom. But if you have a first dance, and let's just say this example. I had a bride and she wanted to do this amazing Latin choreography. And as halfway through a choreography, she kind of talked to me and she was like, look, I don't think my dress from my for my wedding gown is going to work for this dance. I think I'm gonna need to change it. And I said, okay, well, yes, that seems like a perfect idea, especially if you're kicking up your leg, you're doing lots of lifts, dips, and so forth. If you feel like you just wanna move and then pop back on that wedding dress, that's completely fine as long as the time allotted for that. So that's what she did. She felt the most confident in it. And she also got professional dance shoes, which we'll also talk about in a moment for that as well. So what you wear takes into consideration. I had another situation, a bride, so her dress went up to here and cut off her arm, so basically she could only reach her arm up to here. Now thankfully she knew this before we started our dance lessons, so then when we taught the underarm turns, we were able to practice with her arm only going up to here, because you don't want to get to that moment where you're in your dress and you're like, oh my gosh, I can only push my arm up to here, and we have these crazy turns and so forth, and you're just sitting there thinking about that the whole time. We want to eliminate, we want to have the most successful first dance possible. So in order to do that, we have to prep. So another situation of a bride, she only had a dress like this, haltered this way, no straps. So maybe it wasn't the best idea to do a lot of dips this way because she didn't want to feel like her dress was going to pop, or even one of the lifts, because we were gonna do the back flip lift into the up this way. And it was like, oh wait, I picked out my dress and probably this isn't the best lift for this because my dress may pop down. So thinking about all of those things, sometimes some moves don't work for some dresses. That's okay. If you have a situation, another situation, I wanted to have a little poparoo with the leg and have a little nice dip here, maybe a nice lift where he lifts the leg this way. But if she doesn't have a slit this way, then that could also be a complication, especially if the gentleman is trying to find the leg and then it gets caught in the fabric and it's just too much. We want to make it easier as possible. So the first dance should already be choreographed to how your dress is. Of course, you don't have to pick out a separate dress for the first dance, especially if it's more simple, but you want to have it bustled. If you do have it bustled at your dress fitting, make sure to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of turns. Try to do some of your choreography just to feel out the dress. I do hear some of the brides, they'll text me, hey, how did your first dance go? It went amazing, everything went amazing, but one of the things I didn't take into consideration was the bustle on the dress and how low the dress was. I thought it was gonna be higher, but it was lower. It was a little bit draggy on the floor. I got past it, but it felt like I was thinking about that the whole time. So again, you want to make sure how high the bustle is, what does the train look like, what is up here looking like. If the dress is also tight mermaidy and then comes out here, you also have to take that in consideration, because if you're trying to do a mashup dance and you're trying to do some booms or some booms, you're not going to be able to do that. Your steps are going to be here, and that's all the fabric is going to allow you to do. So again, your dance has to be choreographed to what you're going to be wearing. You can always choose a different dress, but that also takes into consideration. For the gentleman, a little less complicated, so let's talk about that. You have a jacket and you have your shoes. Make sure to practice also in your shoes, because for the first time you have heels, just a little bit of a heel. So you want to also make sure you practice in that. Another thing, it's going to be a little bit more slippery. You can always break them in, which I always recommend. Break them in a little bit, So then when you go to dance for that first time, you're not feeling super stiff in your feet. For the jacket, it's always recommended to unbutton the jacket for the first dance or just take it off. Look-wise, it's completely fine if you take it off for your first dance. It's better to be comfortable than sitting there going, oh my gosh, I feel so stiff, I can only restrict my arm up to here. Remember, you are in charge. You are the leader when she is doing her first dance. So if you can't lift your arm up and if it's a struggle for you, she's gonna feel that. And then now we're lacking in our beautiful turns that we worked on so much together. So what I like to say for dress rehearsal, even before, put a jacket on that kind of represents the same type of feel. Put your arm up. Do some of the dance moves. See how it feels. And then you can decide, oh, maybe I'm gonna wear it. Maybe I'm not gonna wear it. And then decide from there. But always unbutton. Never have it button because again, it's gonna be way too restrictive, even for a simple elegant dance or a waltz or something very simple. For the ladies, for your shoes, I have a lot of brides asking me, what do I wear? Now, of course, it's really good to practice in heels, especially if you don't wear heels normally in your regular day life, you want to make sure to practice in them. It's going to be a whole different feel, especially for turns. I like to teach walking turns to make sure that you're on balance, but you still need that extra little prep to make sure that you actually are grounded and balanced. I know some brides do buy specific professional heels for ballroom dancing. That's fine, you can slip it on. Just make sure, because your dress is bustled, it is hemmed, make sure it is the same heel length. So if you do decide to buy professional shoes, make sure it is the same heel length so it's nice and the same. And then of course, try to practice in them. I know that we want to make sure that we keep them nice and white, but we also want to make sure that we know how it feels so we're more prepped and good to go into a nice, successful, stress-free, amazing first dance when we get back up there. All right, this is the last of this section. I will see you in the next one.